Long ago, in the vast shimmering waters off the Korean peninsula, the sea king of the eastern sea lay ill upon his coral bed, his scales dulled, his eyes dim, and none of the palace physicians, eel, jellyfish, or octopus, could diagnose what plagued him. Then one day a wise turtle, ancient and slow, shuffled into the royal chamber with an answer. "Your Majesty," the turtle said, bowing low, "the only cure for your illness is the liver of a rabbit. Not just any rabbit, a rabbit from the human world, rich in the energies of the land, clever and full of life. Such a liver will restore your strength." The Sea King, desperate and aching, agreed at once. But who would travel to the surface world and find such a creature? The turtle, honored by the king's trust, accepted the mission and began the long journey up from the sea floor. When he reached the shore, the turtle crawled onto land and waited beneath the trees, watching the forest with eyes like glass beads. After days of waiting, he spotted a rabbit. It was lean and alert, twitching its ears and nibbling at some grass. The turtle, slow but shrewd, approached carefully. "Good day," said the turtle in his most soothing voice. The rabbit looked at him sideways. "Strange day for a sea creature to visit the land." The turtle smiled, bowing his head. "Indeed, but I bring an invitation from beneath the waves. The Sea King himself requests your presence in the underwater palace. He has heard of your cleverness and wants to offer you an honored position." The rabbit squinted. "An honored position?" "Oh yes," the turtle continued. "You will dine on delicacies never known to land dwellers, pearl wine, coral cakes, sashimi carved from rainbow fish. Your bed will be lined with sea silk. You'll be advisor to the Sea King himself. No more hiding from foxes or birds, no more digging burrows. A life of pleasure." The rabbit twitched his nose. He was a cautious creature, but also a curious one. "And how would I breathe underwater?" he asked. The turtle grinned. "We have spells for that. You'll breathe as easily as if in your own warren." After some hesitation, and with dreams of luxury and safety blooming in his mind, the rabbit agreed. They journeyed beneath the waves. The turtle swam carefully with the rabbit, balanced on his shell, wrapped in kelp charms that let him breathe. As they passed into deeper waters, the rabbit beheld wonders. Schools of golden fish moving like a single thought, towering kelp forests swaying in rhythm, and strange bioluminescent creatures blinking messages in colors he didn't understand. Eventually, they arrived at the palace. It was a vast, surreal labyrinth, columns made of conch shells, domes of pearl, courtyards tiled in mother-of-pearl mosaics that shimmered with fish-scale hues. Sea creatures bustled everywhere, scribes with squid ink-stained tentacles, messengers darting past with scrolls clenched in their jaws, guards in armor made of coral and shark teeth. The rabbit was led through this aquatic bureaucracy to the central hall where the Sea King lay on a bed of jade-green anemones. His voice was hoarse, but he greeted the rabbit with a flicker of royal warmth. "You must be the wise creature I've heard about," the king said, his gills fluttering weakly. "I am honored, Your Majesty," the rabbit replied, bowing low. "You have come far. Soon you will dine with ministers, swim through gardens of light, and advise me on land matters." The rabbit smiled, though something felt odd. Behind him, the turtle bowed and whispered to the court physician. The rabbit's ears twitched. Soon the ministers came forward, crabs, eels, and squid in ceremonial garb. The physician, a gray and leathery creature with milky eyes, approached and bowed deeply. "Forgive the bluntness," he said, "but we must act quickly. The Sea King's condition worsens." "Act?" the rabbit asked. The physician gestured to the guards. "We require your liver." The room fell into an eerie stillness. The rabbit blinked. "Pardon?" "Your liver," the physician said again. "To cure the king. It is the reason you were summoned." The rabbit's heart raced. His mind, quick and sharp, spun like a wheel. I understand," he said slowly, stepping back. "But there's a problem." The guards moved closer. "A problem?" "Yes," the rabbit said, raising his voice just enough to sound confident. "You see, I left my liver on land." There was a pause. The Sea King lifted his heavy head. "What do you mean?" "It's the way of my kind," said the rabbit, trying to sound as though it were obvious. "We remove our livers at will. It's burdensome to carry such an organ while leaping through the woods. I hide it beneath a sacred tree. Without it, I cannot offer you the cure." The court buzzed. The physician looked skeptical. "Can a rabbit remove its liver?" "Of course," said the rabbit, adjusting his posture with dignity. "I'm surprised you didn't know. It's quite common among us." The Sea King moaned. "Then we must retrieve it." The rabbit nodded eagerly. "I can show the turtle the place. It's not far. If we go now, I'll return with it before your fever worsens." The turtle looked doubtful, but the king waved a trembling fin. "Take him." So once again, the turtle bore the rabbit upon his back, rising through the waters toward the surface. As they passed through the shimmering currents, the rabbit chatted idly, pointing out things the turtle had seen all his life as though they were brand new. Kelp shaped like spires, fish with lantern eyes. When they reached the shore, the rabbit hopped off with grace. "Stay here," he said. "It's just behind that rock. I'll fetch it in a moment." The turtle waited, paddling slowly in the shallows. The rabbit did not return. Eventually, the turtle called out, "Friend rabbit, are you there?" Only the sound of wind in the trees answered him. The turtle waited a little longer, then sighed, turned, and returned alone to the sea. The Sea King waited in his great coral chamber, the weight of his illness heavy across his scaled brow. The waters around him rippled gently, stirred by the slow, pulsing movements of jellyfish lanterns that drifted from the ceiling. Courtiers floated nearby, exchanging whispers, eels curling through scrolls, fish darting between coral columns with troubled looks. And the turtle returned, alone. The guards swam to meet him, expressions guarded. The Sea King, his energy flickering like a dying ember, lifted his head with visible effort. "Where is the rabbit?" he asked, voice a low rumble. The turtle looked down, bubbles escaping from his nostrils. "Your Majesty, the rabbit escaped. He tricked me. He said he would retrieve his liver from the shore, but once he was free, he vanished into the forest." A hush fell over the hall. The Sea King sank back onto his bed of anemones. The physician narrowed his cloudy eyes. "We have been made fools of. The rabbit's story, clearly a lie. No creature can remove its own liver. The idea itself is absurd." A squid advisor wrung her arms in frustration. "Then what now? The cure lies beyond our grasp?" The king groaned. "I was deceived, and now I am dying." There was silence. In the corner, a crab clerk turned a page in his barnacle-stained ledger. "We could seek another rabbit," he said half-heartedly. The Sea King waved a limp fin. "No, the rabbit has exposed our folly. Our kingdom, with all its bureaucracy, magic, and might, was bested by a single clever land-dweller." The turtle, ashamed, sank to the floor. But even as this scene unfolded below, up on land, the rabbit crouched behind a large tree, watching the waves. His breathing slowed. His heart, which had thudded so violently while speaking to the king, now softened. His paws rested on the cool earth, and he let out a long sigh. He had escaped. He chuckled softly to himself. "A liver left under a tree," he muttered. "Fools." But something in him, just a flicker, felt different now. It wasn't guilt exactly. The rabbit knew trickery as a necessary art. But the sea, that strange world he'd glimpsed with its glowing gardens and whispering creatures, had stayed with him. It was surreal, yes, but majestic too. Even terrifying in its quiet, dignified suffering. He wondered if the Sea King would survive. Then he wondered if it mattered. Back beneath the surface, days passed in languid procession. The Sea King's illness remained, though it no longer worsened. The physicians argued among themselves. Some believed the rabbit's liver had been a myth to begin with. Others feared the rabbit had returned to land bearing tales of the Sea Palace. Rumors could spread. Other land creatures might arrive, not with awe, but with nets and cages. The king summoned the turtle once more. "I do not blame you," he said weakly, "but I ask you now to carry another message." The turtle bowed. The king continued, "Swim to the oldest part of the ocean, beyond the coral tombs. There you'll find the oracle clam. Ask her what is to be done, about my illness, yes, but also about our place in this world. We've lived hidden too long. Maybe we are no longer the masters of the deep." So the turtle went. Through darkening waters and currents cold as bone, past forgotten shipwrecks and monuments carved in languages lost to time, past strange ruins swallowed by sand, until he reached the trench where the oracle clam lay half-buried, mouth shut tight. He waited. Hours passed, Then her shell creaked open. "Why do you disturb my sleep?" she asked in a voice like silt dragging over stone. The turtle told her everything. When he was done, the clam's ancient eye blinked slowly. "The rabbit," she said. "Ah, yes, the cleverest of prey, he knows how to escape fate." "He embarrassed us," the turtle said, "but he also reminded us that we are vulnerable." "Indeed," said the clam, "and that, my slow friend, is wisdom." The turtle blinked. "Wisdom? You see folk live long, live deep, but you do not change. You believe your palace untouchable, your scrolls and laws eternal. But the surface world is alive with tricksters and beasts and fire. Change comes from there." "Then, what should we do?" The oracle clam slowly closed her shell again. "Learn to listen, learn to lose, learn to laugh, or you will drown in your own certainty." The turtle returned with her words. Back on land, the rabbit, curious about the sea more than fearful now, would sometimes sit by the water. He would press his ear to a conch and try to remember the corridors of the sea palace, the pulsing light of the royal chamber, the strange rhythm of its song. It had been terrifying, but also beautiful. He didn't know if he'd return. He wasn't even sure if they'd take him back. But something in him now carried the sea, a lapping undercurrent in his thoughts. Meanwhile, the Sea King, who had not died after all, sat in a quieter, emptier palace. He no longer sent guards to hunt for rabbits. He no longer summoned the ministers to plot. Instead, he sometimes dreamed of the shore, of burrows and moss and breeze. And far above, the rabbit sometimes dreamed of kelp forests and corridors of pearl. Neither ruled the other, but they had met, and that, in the strange balance of sea and land, was enough, for now. The tides turned once more, and with the moon hanging low above the rippling water, the rabbit found himself once again by the shoreline. It was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels full, like something waiting behind it. His whiskers twitched in the salted wind. Not from fear this time, but from something else. Curiosity, restlessness. He had lived many days since his escape from the sea, but instead of basking in triumph, he'd felt a slow pull, like a tide curling back. He remembered the light that floated in underwater halls, the seaweed rustling like silk, the palace of coral that pulsed as though it breathed. And though he had tricked the Sea King and survived, something about the ocean's deep sigh had stayed with him. Something ancient, something unfinished. He bent over a tide pool and gazed in. A fish darted past, and for a moment he imagined it was delivering a message. Then a crab skittered sideways over a stone and pausing as if it recognized him. The rabbit leaned closer, the water shimmered, the surface wobbled. Then he heard something. Not with his ears, but deeper. It was the voice of the Sea King. "Come if you wish," it said. "Not as prey, not as trickster, but as guest." And the sea opened up again. The rabbit hesitated, but only for a moment. This time he dove in willingly. The water embraced him, soft and cold. Down he sank, fur plastered against his limbs, but he did not drown. The sea had changed. Or maybe he had. Around him, shapes glided, old friends or watchers he could not name. He followed the flicker of light, remembering how it felt to drift, to float, to surrender. The coral gates were open. The Sea King was waiting. But not in his grand hall, not upon a throne. He stood by the outer reef, where the kelp bent in long, graceful arcs. His crown was gone, his scales duller now, but there was peace in his eyes. "You returned," he said, not with anger, not even surprise. The rabbit nodded. "I didn't expect I would," he replied, looking around at the endless blue, "but I think I wanted to." They stared at one another for a long time. Then the king gestured for him to follow. They swam, not to the palace, but to a shallower cave near the reef's edge. Inside, the walls were etched with drawings. Scenes of both sea and land, rabbits, turtles, waves, trees. "This is new," the rabbit said. "Yes," the Sea King replied. "We've begun recording more than edicts and laws. Stories now, even yours." The rabbit laughed. "So I'm a legend?" "A fable," said the king. "A caution, a curiosity. Depends who you ask." They sat in the stillness, and the silence was no longer heavy. It breathed. "I've thought a lot about what you said," the king murmured, "about your liver, about your lies, about your cleverness. You tricked us, but you also taught us." The rabbit cocked his head. "What did I teach you?" That sometimes survival isn't about teeth or armies or magic scrolls, the king said. Sometimes it's about words. Sometimes it's about knowing when to run. The rabbit looked down at his reflection in a pool of glowing plankton. And you? What did the sea teach you after I left? The Sea King was quiet for a long time. Then he whispered to listen. Outside, currents moved gently. The world did not end. It shifted. As the days passed, the rabbit stayed. Not forever, but longer than he had imagined. He learned new songs, shared old tales, laughed with eel, played riddles with squids. He danced among the ruins of sunken ships and napped beneath fans of kelp that tickled his nose. And when he finally returned to land again, it was not with the thrill of escape, but with the fullness of having seen both sides. Back on the shore, the rabbit became a storyteller. Other creatures gathered near his burrow at dusk, waiting for tales of glowing palaces and ancient turtles and kings made humble, of a kingdom beneath waves where scrolls turned to poetry and laws gave way to laughter. And beneath the sea, in rooms where once only silence lived, echoes of rabbit stories were shared too, of tricks and trials, of questions without easy answers, of a creature who came from above and taught them something they didn't know they'd forgotten. The Sea King, older now and slower, kept one chamber always open to the tides, just in case, because sometimes the rabbit came back, never with fear, never with lies, just stories. And in the end, the sea listened, the land remembered, and between them, in the space where both worlds kissed, a truth as quiet as a tide began to grow. That trickery and trust, curiosity and consequence can live side by side. And sometimes the cleverest path forward is the one where no one wins, but no one drowns.